IDW Sonic Comic Issue 3. Sonic goes to a wall around town and there's a smashed robot, and the reason he's saying he's too late with a smirk instead of a horrified expression is the Knuckles hogged all the fun and defeated the robot for him. I couldn't exactly tell what that thing was supposed to be. It didn't look like a robot, it looks like a circular machine. And it's not a bunch of metal and oil on the ground, it's still circular. You'd think it'd be nothing but pieces then, if Knuckles got it. That robot design has no charm at all, just some circular white thing. I don't know what they were going for with the Sonic Forces robot. Sonic meets up with Knuckles, who's immediately happy to see him for some unexplained reason. It's even weirder considering that this is IDW Sonic, who made himself look like a jerk last issue because he's so mean to Amy. But I did miss them being actually good friends at one point in Archie, but that had a clear origin for why it happened. He really owed Knuckles one. Sonic reminds Knuckles he's far away from HQ for a commander, and Knuckles says that he preferred fighting, and now that the Resistance is focused on rebuilding, it's all scheduling and inventory, so he's got no patience for it. So he's just like Sonic here. And again, that wasn't something Archie Sonic liked either, that was all Sally's thing while he missed actual adventures. So Knuckles has retired from the Resistance from boredom, which you can't really blame him for. He is known for being a more neutral character who cares more about protecting Master Emerald than anything else. And since neutral means not as good as possible, it makes sense that he wouldn't be comfortable and happy with rebuilding, even if he's not a bad guy. Rebuilding is something Tails would be much better at. He wants to go on a treasure hunt on Angel Island. Wait, how are you combining the two concepts together? Did the Master Emerald get shattered into shards and magically scattered around Angel Island? He does know he can't actually guard the Emerald and treasure hunt, right? There's no point returning to Angel Island just to treasure hunt there. And Knuckles lampshades that Amy shouldn't have even tried to get Sonic to enlist full time. But it makes sense because she really just wanted him around because she has a crush on him. If it's all about rebuilding now, well, Sonic can't rebuild stuff. Amy told Sonic that he could smash robots with the Resistance though. So he wouldn't even have to focus on rebuilding, would he? There's no way Amy would be trying to get Sonic to do something he would never know how to do, instead of just directing him to more stuff to destroy. See, here's my problem. I would be impressed with a Sonic if he went out of his way to learn from Tails how to rebuild damaged houses so he could be as useful and helpful as he can. That'd be compassionate of him. He'd be tackling a new challenge, and overcoming and growing. It'd be really easy to imagine Scourge as smashing robots. If by some miracle the Freedom Fighters decided to give him a chance, he could easily transition into it by being sent to smash robots a lot, cause that's easy. But it'd be harder to imagine him comfortable with rebuilding stuff instead of smashing stuff. Sonic is more like a Scourge who had the opportunity to be a hero from the start in this comic. That's how much being arbitrary and mean to Amy without explaining himself made him look bad. But ironically, he's nice to Knuckles. I like him here. I think I could imagine AOSDH Sonic rebuilding stuff because he knew how to build a whole fence around the Sloth Village and even a few walls by moving around in a blue blur. If even that sadistic trickster Sonic could be more easily imagined as a compassionate, helpful person, something's wrong here. I didn't mean to tangent here. I probably just got so bored by the complete lack of anything new and interesting and lack of things actually happening in the comic that I prefer to talk about a hypothetical scenario I imagined when Knuckles said rebuilding, and Sonic said that Amy tried to enlist him full time, as if always smashing robots wasn't what he wanted. So I was like, what if Sonic was focused on rebuilding? Oh, I'd like that too. What's this comic doing then? If Sonic just did the same thing over and over, that'd be boring. Even if rebuilding should be mostly skip past with time skips because that'd be boring to see all the way through. Knuckles says that this town is a hub for Wispon distribution, and the shipments suddenly dried up, so he got curious. Again, what is the name of this town? This is amateur level writing. I can imagine that even a fanfiction would care enough to give a town a name. So this is below amateur writing. I can accept a town not getting a name once. Even Sonic Boom took forever to give its village a name. But it still named the other village Gogaba Village. One town not having a name is like, I guess forgivable because that's the only town you know. so you could only be referring to that town anyways. There's no potential for confusion. Multiple towns in a row with no name just gets ridiculous after a while. You'd think the characters would mention the name at some point. Is this what people mean by IDW is empty of world building? Because I know this kind of thing turned people off the comic. And it's extremely baffling that it would literally be empty of giving any places names, because that's not hard in the slightest. Fleetway gave every new region a name, and usually gave it the word zone at the end, so it even felt like a Sonic game. Having a bunch of locations without names isn't even true to the games that this comic wants to imitate. This is more like the most generic and common of Sonic comic than a games comic. That would be more like STC or the reboot. I could forgive the other towns having no name. There is nothing interesting about them that would make me want to talk about them in particular. This town actually stands out. Even the town that's a hub for Wispawn weapon distribution, even that doesn't get a name? How does the writer expect the audience to care about the comic when even he doesn't care and makes no effort to hide it? It's not a major problem to me right now because I'm still holding out hope that this place will get a name eventually. It'd be completely ridiculous if it never did, even dozens of issues later. It's just really baffling, that's all. Because literally anybody could think of a name for a place. Even if you have to mash letters in a keyboard to do it, that's better than nothing. But I'm so bored, I think I'd gladly take a big plot hole at this point. So far nothing has been happening but the two of them talking. I always imagined that Sonic would meet up with Knuckles and he'd be in the middle of fighting too, so we'd get to see an action scene first at least. While it would be repetitive if every time he met up with one of his friends again they were fighting, at least we'd see an action scene first. I guess the action will happen anyways, after the downtime at the start with nothing interesting and had me bored to death. Knuckles yells out that he's the commander of the Resistance and took out all of Eggman's robots and asked the walled city to let him in. I just remembered, he can climb walls. Wouldn't he be able to climb past the wall, unless the wall jutted out higher up? He'd only need the walled city opened up to get Sonic into the city. So, he's only asking for Sonic's sake. He could climb up the wall with Sonic on his back, if the wall doesn't jut out at the top. Predictably, Knuckles isn't allowed to go into the city right away. There is a guy there, but he's under orders to not let anyone in. And he wants to follow that really strictly. It doesn't matter what his orders are, why is he even wasting his breath? Shouldn't he know that Knuckles can climb? And he can't say who gave those orders, so it must be a bad guy. Because if it was a good guy, then they wouldn't want to hide their identity from Sonic. Knuckles climbs the wall after that, but Sonic gets over the wall in a more disappointing and confusing way. How the hell did he manage to bounce off a black metal thing like a springboard when it's not a springboard or trampoline, and jump higher the second time? It'd make way more sense if they kept it simple and Knuckles climbed the wall with Sonic on his back, instead of Sonic turning into Mario and using Mario's double jump. Even if I already saw Knuckles climbing a wall with Sonic in Sonic Advance 3. At least that'd make sense. When Knuckles and Sonic get into the town, everyone runs into buildings all spooked, and Knuckles isn't allowed to come to the right conclusion about it. He wonders if they got spooked from the Badnik attacks, but they're clearly avoiding them and there are no Badniks. And you'd think Knuckles and Sonic would be celebrities for their heroism by now. Sonic contradicting him gave away that there's a twist immediately. I wonder if their reputations were ruined in this particular town by the bad guy. SCC Online could justify that because there is a ton of evidence that could be used against Sonic there, cherry-picked or otherwise, because he's a jerk. The so-called evidence here would have to be baked. Like they could use a transformed Metal Sonic to frame Sonic again, SCC Online did that. Just doing that alone isn't nearly as interesting and impressive of an evil plan as when Grimer did it, because Grimer had a whole smear campaign on the news for months that was there to condition people into assuming Sonic going evil would make sense, so that there'd be no chance of them assuming that the supposed Sonic that went rogue was just a robot or clone. His plan was very thorough and ended up having that robot Sonic frame Sonic for trying to conquer the world with Megamac bombs aimed at cities, and one-hit Green Hill Zone, which was reported on. And more importantly, the Metal Sonic robot that framed him was trashed, being left behind in lava when Sonic escaped the mountain he was trapped in, so there was no way for Sonic to prove it wasn't him who did a bunch of crimes. This comic hasn't given me the faith in it that I just assume a villain would be as brilliant as Grimer. That's how lifeless and bland this comic is. I'm so bored that I'm praising the part of SCC Online that I hated more than anything. Even that was at least captivating compared to this, which is just more of the same. He's told by the guy from earlier that they shouldn't be here. They took all the weapons and wisp bombs, so the civilians think they don't stand a chance, and the bad guys who took the weapons are unstoppable now. Oh right, we saw the bad guys at the end of the last issue. We didn't need to see them. The story would have had a little bit more suspense otherwise, because we'd be waiting to finally see the bad guys. I forgot about them because they were just in one panel with no dialogue to make an impression. Sonic tells the guy that they can handle themselves against robots, and reminds him that he just watched Knuckles solo as Super Badnik. So why did the guy ever doubt that they could handle themselves? Well, to be fair, they're used to fighting robots, but they'd hold back against organic beings, which are also smaller and more agile targets. If the guy's actually on their side, then why the fuck did the civilians run inside the buildings instead of just going to them and begging Sonic for help? So it was just completely misleading and pointless. The guy says that just before the war ended, mercenaries showed up and saved the town, driving back Eggman's forces, and said they were going to improve their defenses, but only took his arsenal and took the townspeople prisoner. So now they have to do whatever they say. Why did the bad guys have to remain in silhouette? And the civilians can't escape with all the robots stalking outside the wall. And yet this town doesn't get to have a name. A town can't be as memorable without a name. You can't care as much about it without a name. How are people supposed to refer to this town in retrospect? The town the mercenaries took over by stealing their weapons arsenal? No one's gonna want to talk about this place if that's the name of it. I guess a town in issue 3 is faster. It seems to be an episodic comic, though, and it's much harder to remember what exactly happened in what exact issue in episodic comic. Is one of the mercenaries a brilliant programmer who could reprogram Eggman's old robots to be on their side? How convenient for the mercenaries. I guess the robots aren't programmed to be on the mercenary side, and they're just out there because that's what Eggman's robots do now. I just wanted to believe they were programmed to work for the mercenaries because that'd be more interesting. That'd be something new. Sonic and Knuckles are told that the mercenaries turned the supply depot into a fortress just down this road on the right. So they find the wisps and capsules. Knuckles tells Sonic that just before Tails went solo, he gave us, which I guess means Knuckles and Amy, a cipher for the wisps' language. As in, the translator? Why didn't Tails just call it that? At first I was thinking, did Tails make them permanently able to understand the wisps' language? I was thinking of when Sonic got a universal alien language translator put in his brain in Archie. Considering how easy and non-invasive it was for Sonic there, Tails could do the same thing then. But I guess since this writer doesn't make things interesting, it really is just that Tails gave him the device from Sonic Colors, and it interpreted the Wisp language. I was thinking he was saying that because he was gonna translate the Wisp language here. Anyways, Knuckles explains that the Wisps were asked for help in fighting Eggman by the Resistance. Why is he telling Sonic this? Wouldn't Sonic already know? The Wisps had volunteered happily, even choosing to wait in pods like these for when the troops could find them. Knuckles feels sorry for them for being hoarded. This is a good character moment for him, showing that he's a good person, not just someone who wants to smash robots to relieve his violent impulses and aggression. Wouldn't it be weird if Knuckles was more of a good person with a soft side than Sonic in this comic? Well, Sonic would almost never look sad like this. Although I shouldn't have to say this, I'm so relieved that IDW does actually show Knuckles as looking sad, and he's not just a dumb hothead to be made angry by Amy. Because I thought he'd only look like this in Archie and Sonic Underground. But so far, he's a good character here. Maybe it'll just be the artist who will make a bad impression on him by making him look overly angry later to imitate anime. It's good to see Sonic and Knuckles doing a good deed other than just smashing robots so early in the comic's history. They're saving innocent creatures too. They'll replace the Wisps with animals about to be put into badniks and it'd be the same old thing effectively. But this tries to be new. There's a difference between Wisp-Ons, which can be carried, and Badniks, which are able to move on their own. Even if the Badniks are weapons too. I've never seen someone hoard wisps and capsules to be used as portable weapons in a building on Mobius before. We see the bad guys being fanned by leaves at a table full of food, and one of them laughs and calls the jester an idiot when he inexplicably spills their drinks. And the really weird looking white colored bad guy, who knows what he's supposed to be, tells them to get them another round before they beat some sense into him. At least it felt like laughing at first instead of immediately attacking him. So they're not complete monsters. Sonic and Knuckles are spying on them while hidden around boxes, and Knuckles says he wants to break them in half. But that'd be gruesome to see. And that meta logic is literally the only reason why he wouldn't do that, apparently, because he's fine with suggesting it. Sonic tells Knuckles to take this slow first and give the villagers a chance to get out of the line of fire first. I don't understand. Why should they take it slow? Why would Sonic suggest taking things slow? Wouldn't breaking them in half be much faster of a way to take them out? Making sure the fight takes longer is just gonna run the risk of Sonic and Knuckles getting hurt. The villagers wouldn't need to get evacuated if Sonic slammed into the bad guys really fast in a ball and knocked them all down. Sonic's so fast that realistically he just injured them all himself. Then Knuckles could break them. Are these two going to get discovered by them first? Because right now they have the element of surprise. Are they going to get discovered and hit? And that's going to start the fight immediately? Because that would make sense. I guess Sonic means the villagers in the room right now could get hurt if they started a fight right now when they're in the room. But again, if Sonic homie attacked all the bad guys, they'd already be defeated and need to be hospitalized. Why would the villagers need to get out of the room? Sonic could pick them up and run out of the room with them and put them down, and then run back in just a few seconds. It's like the writer forgot that Sonic is fast, and he thinks he's writing this for a person at normal speed with normal abilities. Oh, this is stupid. Sonic actually gives up his element of surprise and greets them all with insults when he was just hiding. He could have smacked all the bad guys with a homie attack one by one the instant he get out of hiding, which would be common sense, and then the fight would have already been won. Instead, the writing's gone completely to shit, and now the stories are redeemable from this point onwards. Too bad, it would have been interesting. I don't understand why all the bad guys are just standing there like dopes when Sonic's talking to them for a million years. All Sonic's doing is telling them stuff they already know. They already know who Sonic and Knuckles are because they're world-famous heroes. I don't know why Knuckles still called the commander when he clearly retired in favor of Amy. Sure, it's nice of Sonic to humor Knuckles like that. And the bad guys already know what they're guilty of. His dialogue is horribly boring, so they wouldn't put up with it. Maybe they were standing still because they were afraid of Sonic because they knew that they had no chance of winning against someone so fast. Even if they tried rushing at him to interrupt him, he'd attack them or dodge. And they should know that. None of them are fast enough to get at him and hit him when he's talking anyways. The writing's not even trying to be realistic at all here, when it was just trying to get me to take the story seriously. Now the white-furred guy is a dumb cartoon villain insulting Sonic for coming to his town to ruin his fun, and the other guy brags that Sonic hasn't hurted them. Sonic is fast. Shouldn't it be immediately obvious to these people that they're screwed? How are they talking as if they're talking to anyone but Sonic and Knuckles? Of course, even trying to run away would be pointless because again, Sonic is fast. So they would have to deal with a fight regardless, and so it makes sense that they try to act brave to save face, but the problem is that they aren't scared. It's not like they're forcing smiles with terrified expressions, which is completely ridiculous. Now that all the villagers have left the room, there's absolutely no reason for Sonic not to immediately homie attack these guys. These guys are acting so stupid that I'm picturing them as having annoying generic cartoon thug voices, with the gray and white one having a high-pitched voice, and it makes them even more annoying. If Sonic thought he couldn't attack any of them without killing them with his speed, and getting nagged at by Knuckles for it, he wouldn't have even revealed he was here. Sonic could control his speed because his speed's a part of him, so he could hit with less force and still hit with a lot of it. And these guys aren't even saying their names. The last panel implied they're gonna tell Sonic who they are, but instead they're just threatening them in very generic thug dialogue. They're very lucky that Sonic is apparently way too much of his softie to just run at them and grab them and, like, break their arms, because, oh no, that'd be mean to a bunch of evil bad guys who deserve it. Oh, finally, they say they're called Rough and Tumble. That better just be nicknames. Though if they had such bad parents that they're actually named that, it would explain why they ended up this way. Again, this is a completely stupid cartoon at this point. Sonic had no reason to let them talk anymore. Knuckles said he was gonna break them in half. Don't give me that neither of them would break their bones thing, because I'm pretty sure breaking them in half would break their bones. I'd be satisfied if Sonic had smacked into them as a ball in the last panel, but that required good writing. Then Sonic and Knuckles aggravate me some more. Sonic thinks it's so funny that he's tearing up, and yet that's not a thing in any later panel. Why aren't they being rushed at and attacked right now in their tedious dialogue? These thugs should be punched, not just made fun of. I already know they're complete jokes because they think they stand a chance. He's allowed to cry, by the way, so that's why I'm not questioning this. What does Sonic even mean by telling Knuckles he's assaulted the Earth? Why did he tell Sonic they're coordinated? If he means he's an idiot, he should have just said that. Why did Sonic not just homie attack them already? This is boring! This is horribly slow pacing! Kids wouldn't get bored of this, really? You want an excuse that says it's a kid's comic, so it's allowed to be written like garbage? Well, an actually good and competent kids comic wouldn't bore the audience and risk them skipping through the story or putting the comic down and canceling its subscription. It just immediately cut to them hitting each other. It was nice of Sonic to put his hand on Knuckles' shoulder, though. See, I point out everything good, too, even if it means I have to state the obvious to do it. And make the story take even longer to get through. The story lost me the minute these idiots started threatening them. And we don't even get to see Sonic Spin Dash make contact with them. And we don't even get to see Knuckles' fists actually collide with this guy. This sucks. Stick to robots from now on, then. Is the artist gonna fuck up the whole fight? Is that what happens with an artist who's too cowardly to show people getting hit? It isn't super dark and edgy to show someone getting hit in the face. It's funny, actually. Looney Tunes looks more gutsy than this. I don't feel like Knuckles actually punched him. I refuse to buy that this guy could have caught Sonic's Spin Dash and thrown him. The sheer force of Sonic's Spin Dash impacting with any of this guy's body parts would at the very least send him backwards and injure him, even if Sonic was trying to hold back. Even if he miraculously caught Sonic's Spin Dash, he would have been sent falling over first. So even if he did manage to throw Sonic, he'd have to be on his back while doing so. And we can clearly see Sonic's sharp spines here, so his spines would cut him. It clearly looks like his hands are holding him and should be cut. In the first issue of Flynn's Other M comic, Eggman hit away Sonic's Spin Dash, but his hands were cut and he needed a bandage afterwards. Even a poorly drawn fan comic is better written than this. What does that say? Of course, I don't want to see blood, ever. But then don't write a scenario where it has to have blood, or else the writing's just completely illogical. Treat me like an idiot. Don't have him catch the Spin Dash at all. It would work if a robot caught a Spin Dash. Sonic bounces off the wall and hits him anyways. Why the fuck wasn't this drawn in the first place? Why wasn't this drawn as soon as possible? At least we do see him actually impact him. Lucky for Sonic, he bounced off the wall instead of spin dashing straight through with the spines that were out. The other guy jumps magically high. And, okay, he is a skunk. That's why he's gray and white. I was wondering if he was a skunk, but he didn't look like a skunk other than that. I only wondered if he was because of his color scheme, which didn't even get that right because he should be black and white, not gray and white. Jeffrey looked way more like a skunk than him. That's why I didn't get it instantly. At least this guy actually uses a skunk ability. Now it's baffling that Jeffrey never did that even once. But I don't want fart jokes anyway, so good. This is the worst possible ability to show off. But it's a step in the right direction. If you're gonna have characters based on animals, Having them use special abilities that the animals actually have is the obvious great idea. The stink puts tears to Knuckles' eyes, but it was pointless because he still pushed through and punched him into the floor. So it was only there to show what a badass Knuckles actually is when you get right down to it. And his fist is shown as hitting his head. I wish that was all the time because the fight screwed up its first impression hard, and that leaves you mad for the rest of it, expecting every hit to not have impact. So now the bad guys are defeated, right? Because one of them was smacked in the head, and the other was smacked by a spin dash. Bullshit, how was the white furred guy even able to stand up and pick up the skunk in the first place? First off, Sonic would be repeatedly homing attacking him at this point. For him to be able to get all the way here and pick this guy up, Sonic would have to have stood still and let him get here. That's dumb. This isn't an RPG where they're turn-based. And I don't want to call them rough and tumble because those names are stupid. Those aren't names, they're freaking adjectives. I don't even know the species of this white-colored guy, so I can't even call him by that. He has a W on his chest. You'd think he'd have a name that starts with W, and so it'd be easy to know what to call him. I also hate that the skunk is drawn with yellow swirly eyes, which just doesn't make sense. Why does he call him bro? Are they bros? They don't look like they're the same species. How could sociopathic thugs care about each other? So going by logic, I guess the skunk's out of commission for the rest of the fight, right? And why the fuck is Sonic asking Knuckles if he's okay instead of homing attacking at the bad guys who should be too injured to fight by now? You could say that it was spoiled by the format that the fight wasn't over yet because the story wasn't at the end yet, but they could have had a bunch of interesting stuff happen after the fight was done. It's nice of Sonic to ask him if he's okay. I didn't expect him to care. But there's a time and a place for everything, and he could be asking him this while bounce attacking the bad guy. If you're gonna say it's too cruel, well, technically it's cruel to hit someone in the first place, but that doesn't stop Sonic. And why the fuck are these unlikable idiots back to talking confidently? They're supposed to be defeated by now, because Sonic should be attacking them. The only reason I'm giving the spin dash any kind of leeway instead of saying that it wouldn't make any physical sense for him to not spin dash straight through him with the spines is that I'm assuming that the part of him that hit him wasn't the sharp spines. Like, he hit him with his head. His face isn't a sharp spine, his feet aren't a sharp spine, so he just hit him with his feet. Okay. I guess the white-colored guy put a band-aid on Skunk's head. He was just hiding a band-aid on his person, like in his clothes. So that was considerate of him. But Skunk should have too much of a concussion to even try to attack at this point. Why in the world does Sonic say that might be a problem? Why would he ever be intimidated? Issue 1 was about establishing that Sonic's always trying to be cool. That he only takes stuff seriously when he thinks he's literally about to die. So why is he just standing there? Even if he thinks there's such a problem that his mere spin dash isn't enough for them, why doesn't he run around them and create a tornado around them to throw them upwards? Why doesn't he run around and create wind to throw them away? That happened in Archie and in Fleetway. And even in Sonic Heroes he had the Sonic Tornado attack, so there's no reason he couldn't do that here. But that makes sense, so we can't have that. Knuckles says he'll distract them and tells Sonic to grab a Wishbone of his own. That'd be doing something new because we never saw Sonic use a Wishbone before, so I shouldn't have expected that the story would let him do that. Of course it takes another turn to disappoint me. What kind of a weapon name is Wisp on anyways? It should be Sonic distracting them, by repeatedly homing attacking them. It's simple! This writer's so valued because he's a fan of the games. You'd think he'd know better than this. In the games, Sonic would just repeatedly homing attack a target if he can. Like a robot that doesn't die in one hit. Even a player controlling Sonic in a video game would have a much better idea of how to fight than Sonic here. He's supposed to have personal experience. Why the fuck are the thugs just standing there and letting Sonic tell the Wisp to help him? Why the fuck aren't they punching Sonic and interrupting him? That's not how thugs would act. That's not how anyone would. Why is it too simple to just write Sonic as doing what Knuckles told him? Especially since Sonic isn't even saying anything remotely interesting. He's just reminding us about exposition about the Wisp that Knuckles already told us most of. And the game fans already know about Lost World. This extra panel shouldn't even exist. Sonic shouldn't fucking have to convince the Wisps to fight with a long, cheesy as hell speech that obviously he'd have been interrupted during. These thugs would be punching the hell out of Sonic and Knuckles by now. This is fucking stupid. This sucks. Why can't the Wisps, if that was the plan, just break out themselves? Why can't Sonic just be written to say, Wisps, break out of your capsules and fight? Why can't the artist have the talent to draw Sonic as dodging attacks the whole time he's saying this? Why does he have the talent to draw Sonic in a blue blur moving around the Wisp capsules? Sonic could free all the Wisps himself in much less than the amount of time it would take for him to say all of this. AOSCH would be written better than this. Also, the whole time, ever since Sonic first saw these two, I always assumed there was at least one more of them who wasn't in the room at the moment. Didn't I get told there was a group of mercenaries? Merely 2 people took over a whole town? That's fiction-y. Just because it's a duo? Why is it just 2 people? They could be more of a threat if there was more than 2 of them, because they could at least try to overwhelm Sonic and Knuckles with numbers. I think they were only getting people to ban them and be a gesture for them to be sadistic. Because having an air conditioner in front of them would be much better. And obviously a gesture wouldn't be nearly as entertaining as just having a TV in front of them. Sonic tells the Wisps that they need them, but the Wisps don't need them. If the Wisps can just get out of the mercenaries' Wisp bonds whenever they feel like, they should have done so much earlier, the second they were annoyed with them. I didn't think they could get out of them. They had no reason to think it wasn't worth trying to fight them then. They had magical powers, they didn't. There's no reason they'd be intimidated by the bad guys in the first place. The Wisp bonds stopped working as I think about how the whole plot logically shouldn't have happened, so the story was forced. It didn't need to have the Wisp bonds in it at all. All of the Wisps come to Sonic's side as the bad guys finally freak out, and then Knuckles and Sonic hit and kick them away. Why the fuck didn't they do that a long time ago? The Wisps aren't even doing anything. They're contributing nothing here. I thought the Wisps would fuse with Sonic and give him their powers to use. And that was why Sonic was reminding them of who he was, because he would remind them of what they did with him in Sonic Colors. Even that amount of logic was ignored. You'd think the game's obsessed writer would go for the Sonic Colors reference. And we don't even get to see the foot and fist impact them, so I don't have a reason to care. And they already walk out of the house with the bad guys with their hands tied behind their backs. Could we have seen Sonic do that to them instead? Where'd he get the rope? He just ran out and got some, but he didn't use his speed to homing attack them a bunch? Why are they still able to walk at this point? This writing wasn't thought through at all. Sonic fighting an organic being would be much more damaging than that, isn't that obvious? And there is no indication whatsoever in the story that Rough and Tumble had rings protecting their bodies. They still look bruised, and Skunk still got dazed and needed a band-aid, which I can't even see anymore. Where does Bump go? The fact they are protected by rings is the only in-universe explanation, but I don't think it's the actual one, or the writer would have explained it. Considering how much the story made me hate these guys for being idiots, they weren't beaten up nearly enough to make the story satisfying. They weren't even so much as humiliated enough to make it satisfying. Sonic says that just getting chili dogs as a reward will be enough. You'd think they'd insist on giving him reward money to keep in his shoes or gloves. He can't just survive on eating chili dogs. He'd have to eat something else eventually or he'd get sick. And everyone can get sick of the same thing over and over again. Sonic says he doesn't know what the Wisps are saying. It could have so easily not been the case. And the bad guys are told they'll be locked up for a long time. Already the story's foreshadowing that they'll break out of the cells and then come for them. Fleetway didn't do that. This is not how you handle minor villains correctly. The minor villains in that comic got defeated and put in jail after one story, and they didn't immediately start foreshadowing that they'd bullshit break out of jail. So the victory over them felt legitimate. I'd like if they stayed in jail and we never ever saw them again. But that would require writing with talent that actually knows what it's doing. That would require the writer to know that we hate these idiots so much that we never want to see them again. That fight scene wasn't worth it. Why would the guy feel like saying their names now? They're not cool here, they're being arrested. Knuckles thanks Sonic for the help and says he didn't need it anyways, even though it was 2 against 1. Knuckles says he hopes things will settle down because he really misses home. So this shows that the writer still knows how Knuckles is known for being, even if Knuckles is free and fighting on the surface like an Archie. Sonic says he wouldn't mind a vacation himself. Since when? Well, he did say he wanted that in SC1. But I think he was kidding himself there too. If cleanup bores him, he couldn't stand a break from smashing robots. The story ends with the villain from earlier spying on Knuckles and just now finding out that Knuckles is here and not guarding the Master Emerald. What took so long? He's slow. Once you have found out from news reports that Knuckles is saving the day and has been for some time, that's one Google search. And fuck the text bubble for immediately spoiling that Tangle and Blaze will show up in the next issue. This comic barely has anything new as it is, so literally all it's got going for me right now is that I'm getting to experience it firsthand in chronological order. That's the only thing new that I'm experiencing. So when I get a spoiler, even that is taken away from me because now the surprise is ruined. Things make a bigger impression when they're actually a surprise, not just, oh, I heard about this. Is this going to be written well or not? At least the comic established different types of enemies for Sonic to fight in every issue. So it's at least trying to act like it has variety, because there were egg hammers, badniks, and now organics, one of which at least is a special ability. But even something as boring and easy as a badnik fight is better than this. Badniks don't waste their time with dialogue and stupid personalities. And the artist doesn't think he should censor badniks getting hit by not showing the impact with them. This is a case where if the story is too boring, even that can be infuriating. Because it means that going through the whole story takes forever. The next issue has to be amazing after this. It better be. Because this comic is just going downhill with every issue. SEC's first few issues weren't too great, but they had impressive ideas. This boring issue is by Ian Flynn, and it's sad that it was such a frustrating catastrophe because this is the first plot in IDW that's original. I don't remember ever seeing the concept of some criminals taking over a town by stealing all of its weapons after using them to defend the place before. Too bad the action scene sucked. This is a scene that was ruined by boredom. The story took forever to get to the fight, when realistically Sonic would have just started homie attacking them right away. I stopped caring about Rough and Tumble the second they acted unrealistically by still remaining confident that they could beat Sonic in a fight. At that point, they're not people anymore, they're just ridiculous cartoon characters. They're forced to fight him regardless, but couldn't they have been scared? So they weren't beaten up and humiliated nearly enough for how much they aggravated and bored me. The first few attacks weren't even drawn to have impact, which had a terrible first impression, making me wonder if this would be the standard for organic fights from now on. There were a few times where we actually saw impact with them in the fight, but it didn't happen nearly enough. All the worthless dialogue wasn't needed. It wouldn't be so hard for the action scene to be good by replacing all the stupid dialogue with them hitting each other. Knuckles especially had no reason to let anyone talk, because he's known for being a violent hothead. At least show that off in a place where it'd be positive. And the story has the nerve to foreshadow that they'll escape jail, which wasn't necessary and destroys any kind of satisfaction that the victory had. What makes them think we'd want to see them again? SEC is better because it actually has the guts to have one-shot villains. Because it has the creativity to always keep coming up with more. So it knows that it can afford to keep putting villains in jail after the first story. And it was brave enough to keep doing that in spite of the potential complaint that it might be wasting a villain. The worst part was when Sonic was somehow allowed to make a gigantic, cheesy, and boring speech to the Wisps to escape their capsules. Only for the Wisps to not do anything to attack the bad guys at all. Not even to fuse with Sonic. That could have tried to make this interesting. Even before this pitifully slow-paced and boring excuse for an action scene happened and destroyed my good mood, the story was still really boring because nothing was happening, until the heroes went over the wall and some guy told them a bunch of exposition and get them to go fight for the town back. When he sent them over there, I was wondering if he was sending them to a different place to send them into a trap, because he would be scared of Rough and Tumble finding out that he planned against them. So the story could have lasted longer because Sonic would be sent to the wrong place at first.
Instead, it lasted longer because of boredom.